Hello and welcome to the Weekend Spectator. My name is Reilly and I'm here with Paul Kengor in person on the ground at CPAC 2025. We're in Washington, D.C. It's very cold, but we're having a great time.
The great and gracious grace. And here we are together at last. So I think we've been together since we were at the Spectator offices, probably.
Yeah, exactly. And we didn't even get to film then.
No.
So this is our first in-person episode in a long time.
That's right. Here at CPAC. And so pre-recorded, right? We're not live streaming. But it's, it's an amazing place, right? I mean, people can't see, obviously, what we can see right now, but we're at the Gaylord Hotel, National Harbor, and big giant Newsmax sign down there, escalators here, all kinds of famous people going through, like Olivia Whiteman of the Institute for
Paul
Faith and
Kengor
Freedom, right?
Of the Weekend Spectator.
And I got to meet your dad, who's a cool guy.
Yeah, he's in the audience right now.
And was telling me, you guys were showing me pictures of him taking you to a Broadway musical when you were 4 years old.
Oh, yeah. Good time. So it's been a lot of fun here on the ground catching up. And we're going to talk about this conference so far, about IFF, the Institute for Faith and Freedom. But we'll start, though, with Paul Kengor's speech last night that he gave at Georgetown.
Yeah,
So some of us got together for a Grove City College alumni mixer last night, which was great. But he was at Georgetown braving some of the leftists.
I was.
Has a bit of a story to tell. So what was the topic of your speech and kind of the context of you being there?
Yeah, so I spoke on Ronald Reagan, and it was the Federalist Society group, the college libertarian conservative group. They're trying to start a YAF chapter, Young America's Foundation chapter. Yeah. So the kind of core group. There were two freshmen, guy named Shay, a girl named Callisti, and they were both. She's from Wichita, Kansas. He's from California. They're both freshmen, and then Garrett Mayo, who's a law school student there. So they brought me in, but Georgetown's an amazing campus, beautiful campus. The weather was brutal. I mean, just absolutely awful.
Like 20 degrees or worse.
Yeah, right. It was like 20 degrees, and the wind chill was just brutal. So that really hurt a lot of the audience. But what really hurt our audience was they had put up about 50 flyers around campus, and they were nice. I mean, they were nice flyers. They showed me the flyers. And
promoting your speech.
Promoting the speech. They put them up on Monday. So the speech was Thursday night, and by Wednesday, they could find only 6 flyers that had not been torn down. And in fact, Callisti told me they used like double tape, almost like masking tape, duct tape, to really seal it there so people couldn't rip it down. But they ripped them down, and of the few that were remaining, they drew Hitler mustaches on Ronald Reagan. I don't know if they drew any Hitler mustaches on me. My face was on there.
Do you think they know that it's kind of communist to be tearing down the signs like that and limiting free speech?
Right. Well, kind of fascistic, right?
Yes,
I mean, which is exactly what they would accuse
accusing
Reagan
you of, or Reagan of. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And so the talk was on Reagan, his ideas, his legacy, and his relevance. And I talked about conservatism. I defined conservatism. And I started by saying to the crowd, I hope some of you here are liberals.
Yeah.
Because, and I quoted Reagan to Gorbachev, we understand each other better, and that's the key to peace, right?
Yeah.
I said, if you understand what we believe, and I'm going to put up on this PowerPoint different definitions of conservatism by Reagan, Buckley, Kirk, all these different founders of conservatism, you'll understand us better, and you won't just think that we oppose like same-sex marriage because we hate gay people or something like that, right? So one student who was there, who was nodding and smiling a lot the entire talk, I figured that he agreed with me on everything. And then he asked a confrontational question in the end, but he was very charitable, cheerful. We engaged, we talked to him for a while afterwards. And so he was somebody from the left who was agnostic, if not atheist. I told him that at his age, I was agnostic, if not atheist. We had a great dialogue. We exchanged emails. He sent me an email that night. But there's somebody who was actually open-minded enough to come to the talk.
Yeah, and that's a lesson. That's exactly what it should be like. And applause for him, even if he asked you an absurd question, that he came, listened, was able to meet with you, see you as a person enough to connect with you, and try to come to some sort of understanding of what you're advocating for and speaking about.
Right.
So we need more of that.
We do.
And it's honestly, it's too bad that everyone else's reaction was to just rip down posters.
Yeah, just rip it down in the name of tolerance and diversity.
Of course.
As usual. And they had, so a couple days before, they showed the Reagan movie.
Yeah.
Apparently. And I think that was hosted by YAF, and so they got a room on campus and they showed the Reagan movie. And I think that had even better attendance, better weather for one thing. It was like 60 degrees here last week. So they wanted to talk to me about the movie because the Reagan movie is based on my book, one of my books on Reagan. And they probably had a little bit more, they said they had a bit more of a diverse crowd there because people are interested in movies. But you'd really like liberals and progressives, if they want to know what conservatives really believe, to actually come and listen to a conservative, rather than just assume that they know what you believe and tear your posters down. But that's what they do. And I suppose it could be worse. I could have been booed at and hissed and protested, which I thought was a possibility. Right, it's happened to me before, but fortunately that didn't happen.
Yeah, no, it is fortunate. So then following that, now you're spending the rest of your time here at this conference.
Right.
I was here all day yesterday, so at the time that we're recording this, the conference has been going on a little bit, but there's still more to come. And probably most notably, first of all, JD Vance spoke first thing in the morning to kind of kick off the conference. And I think a key takeaway was a message of faith. He talked about his faith. He shared the gospel, which was amazing on stage. So he talked about Jesus and how that's impacted his life and his family. So I think that was a really good note to start the conference on. Especially,
and his story is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, the whole hillbilly elegy story. And I mean, he reminds me a lot of his life, a lot like mine growing up in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I mean, I had...
He was Ohio, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of environment. And he's really, I mean, that whole kind of area. My friend Rob Orlando from New Jersey always says the Midwest begins in Western Pennsylvania, right? And then kind of into Ohio and into Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, that area. And so I know exactly, JD Vance talks about his mom and all the F-bombs. My mom didn't talk like that, but one of my best friend's mother was just a dead ringer for JD Vance's mom. So I know that kind of environment, and he has an amazing faith-based conversion story and very inspiring.
Yeah, it is. So that was an amazing note to start the conference out on, because I think it just pointed to conservative values as a whole, which is something at CPAC every year that I think is discussed. I mean, what does it mean to be conservative? How big should the tent be? And that's something that obviously Reagan talked about and a lot of other people talked about, of how big should the tent be, what is conservatism, but definitely to have the basis of this conference be faith. And of course it opened in prayer, and that's been a message that's been strung throughout all of the speakers for the most part. A lot of people have brought up faith and the importance of that. So I think that that's been encouraging and something that is essential, I would say, is essential to conservatism. Obviously, there are conservatives who aren't Christian, but that is the essential foundational cornerstone. So seeing that here at this conference has been really encouraging. Yeah,
and in fact, so this goes so well that you're saying this with my talk last night, because one of my slides, I quote Russell Kirk, right, on can a conservative be not religious?
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, you can. I mean, when I was in college, I was a conservative and I was agnostic, right? So I supported Reagan, anti-communism, lower taxes, limited government, and I was pro-life too. I mean, in fact, this is the thing about liberals. I don't understand the secular progressives. They claim to champion the little guy and be all about human rights, but yet they can't support a baby in the womb, right? A baby in the womb, and he's protected. We're distracted here because there's a bunch of security guys quickly walking through here right now.
Everyone's important at CPAC.
Right. But I think it's okay. Nothing happening.
Yeah.
But Russell Kirk asked the question: must a conservative be religious? And so no, you don't. However, conservatism has a religious foundation based on biblical law, natural law, and so it's a lot easier to be a conservative if you are religious, and secular progressives tend to be non-religious. So if on 100 issues, if you could check the conservative box on 90 out of 100, but you're not a professing Christian, you're still a conservative.
Exactly.
Right? But you see here how religion, Judeo-Christian values are the anchor, the bedrock, the cornerstone of conservatism.
Yeah, and this goes back to a quote that I got in your class, back in your conservatism class, that I've carried with me throughout my career since. I've brought up a lot of different times because it's right on. He says, Russell Kirk says that at heart, political problems are moral and religious problems.
Got a good memory.
Yeah.
So that's why she got an A.
Oh yeah, exactly. I tried. But really though, that quote kind of just hits the nail on the head there, that you're right, you can be conservative, but you're missing that foundational piece. And I think that this conference is really cool because it opens up that conversation within the conservative movement.
Yeah. I shared that quote last night.
Oh, and, really? Hey, great minds think alike.
Yeah. No, it's right. And in fact, that line, at their heart, political problems, political issues are moral and religious problems, and they really are.
Yeah.
I mean, so many issues eventually boil down to that. And again, to give an example like marriage, right? The conservative position would be that a man and a woman, they leave their parents, they become one flesh. That's like a biblical law argument, but there's also a natural law argument for that. Whereas the secular progressive believes that values change, they evolve over time. So they believe, a conservative would say, no, you can't tamper with or mess with the biblical natural definition of marriage. It's set in stone. This is the way it is. But the progressive says that's old fuddy-duddy stuff. We can change, we can evolve. The conservative believes in an enduring moral order, right? The progressive believes in like an evolving moral order, if you could even call it that, right? Well, so we believe in what endures, they believe in what evolves.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is what explains everything. So, without that foundation, that's where a lot of these discrepancies come up and where I think a lot of problems are. And with young people, so another thing I want to point out, just being at CPAC, is that Gen Z, we know, voted more for Trump than before, so he gained a lot of ground. Especially young men came out and voted for Trump.
Young men in particular.
Yes, and I just think back to years ago, even at this conference, how people were kind of pessimistic, saying, oh, young people, Gen Z is going to be liberal, they're all over social media. But look now at where they've come, where Gen Z is looking like it could be the most conservative generation we've seen in a long time.
Yes.
And that just proves that you don't have to be on the left if you're a young person. And also, when more people do this work digging into the foundation of things, it does make a difference. And I mean, honestly, quite frankly, it may not be all that. A lot of it is probably that people are sick and tired of the corruption and just wanted someone that was authentic and real as a candidate. But there is something to be said for digging into the foundation of things and the ways that it can open your eyes.
Yeah, and the Gen Z, I mean, so the liberals gave them a choice between, all right, you got an old Donald Trump, but also an old Joe Biden.
Yeah.
So, where was a young, dynamic, liberal alternative? And then they come up with Kamala Harris, and she's just a completely unattractive candidate altogether. But sorry, Cliff is over there. Hi, Cliff. How you doing? Good to see you. I'm taping. I'll talk to you later. There's so many. One thing I love about coming back here is you see hundreds of people that you see only here. But another thing is so many of that younger generation, especially the young men, they're so tired of wokeism, DEI, and all the things that have really kind of taken it to young men.
Yeah.
And so Trump is for them the guy with the fortitude, the courage to take it on.
Oh, absolutely. It's true. And then just lastly, before we close, we've got to mention Elon Musk's speech last night. You've probably seen headlines and clips from this.
Right.
Him having the chainsaw on stage, running on like a gangster with his glasses. And I don't have anything too serious to say about it other than that was the funniest thing I've ever seen. In person, that was an extremely entertaining speech, politics aside.
Yeah.
It's just what a time we're in for that to be the vibe of politics, of the right. It's just what a time to be alive.
Yeah, so I didn't see it. I didn't see it live, but I saw it on TV when he pulled out that chainsaw.
Oh my gosh!
So this is before your
From
time.
the President of Argentina, by the way.
Right,
which is funnier. So I was backstage and actually saw him walking around, the President of Argentina. I was like, that's really cool.
Yes,
to see him this
he really
close.
Stands out.
And then a few minutes later, he walks on stage and gives Elon Musk a chainsaw to cut budgets or whatever.
Yeah, that's great. This is before your time, but I remember over 20 years ago seeing Charlton Heston on the stage at CPAC, and he held up a rifle in his hand because it was the National Rifle Association that he was in charge of, and he was imitating Moses or John the Baptist from one of his films, and he said, "Al Gore, repent, repent." And then he said the thing about, "You'll have to take this gun from my cold, dead fingers." And the place jumped up and went wild.
Same vibes.
Yeah. So what happened last night with Musk, that reminds me of kind of classic Charlton Heston CPAC moment.
Oh yeah, no, it was one to remember. So a lot of fun on the ground here. We're so glad that you could join us. We're looking forward to the rest of the time here and to bringing you clips from that and reporting from that. It's been wonderful that you joined us, and we hope, hey, in the future, consider CPAC. It's a lot of fun, that's for sure.
It's a lot of fun, and
it's nice to be around so many like-minded people. It's encouraging.
It is, and I'll be handing out a box of American Spectators here in a little bit, handing them out as gifts to different people. But yeah, this is it's a good thing. It's like the conservative mecca that you have to travel to at one point in the conservative's lifetime.
That's
right?
true. That's true.
And,
that's great.
and at the very least, it's fun to come down here once a year to reconnect with people that you don't see otherwise anywhere but here.
Yeah,
so,
no, very cool.
Yeah.
Well,
good to do it in person.
It's been great to do it in person. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you go to spectator.org to read all of our reporting and articles, and make sure that you like this, share it with your friends, and come back next week for another episode of the Weekend Spectator.
Grazie, Grace. See y'all next week.